Jesus, my dearest friend, my most faithful companion, my Messiah. I watched him die, and I struggled trying to understand what had happened. Just days ago, his victory had seemed so sure. Yet even then, he had reflected a sadness, such a sadness he wanted to share, and yet couldn't quite, as if it was for him alone. At the supper we shared together, he told of his betrayal, and many times he told us he would die. He told us death would be necessary, and that it was God's will that he die. He told us, but I never thought. Well, I never understood. But somehow he did. He knew he would be forsaken, and when he entrusted his mother in my care, I knew too. Jesus the man, son of Mary, Jesus the Messiah, Son of God, must be forsaken. I thought of Jesus' tears, his prayer, his fervency in the garden. He knew that he would be alone in his death. Where were the others? Peter's, James? And what defense had I truly offered for this man who loved so much and so well? But this was all wrong. It was not how I thought the Messiah was to be. A man dying on a cross alone. And then I heard Jesus cry out the words, and the words chilled me.
Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani.
Many in the crowd thought he had called on Elijah, but I knew that Elijah could not help him. He had called out to his father. For a brief moment, I began to understand, not completely, but in parts. I knew with a chill that the Christ had to be forsaken, not only by man, but also by his Father God. Somehow God had decreed that his only begotten Son should die and be forsaken. My mind was in a swirl. I couldn't understand how this could be, or even why. Something to do with love. But I knew the psalm that Jesus cried out in Aramaic, and I cried my understanding.
My God, why have you forsaken me?
Only God can cast out demons. No man is capable of such a feat. Jesus had cast seven out of me and befriended me. I had never doubted his claims to be God. The Father and I are one, he said, and I believed him, because I knew the power of demons and the only power capable of expelling them. If then he had befriended me, he'd eaten, slept, drunk, and touched like a man. And now as I watched him on the cross, somehow it seemed important to know, did he suffer like a man? I wondered, could he die like a man? I loved him. I truly loved him. He was God. But was he man? And as he spoke his next words, spoken in the frailty of his being, I knew he was both.
I thirst.
The crowds had mostly gone. The curious seekers who flocked to see who was being executed rarely stayed once the suffering actually began. Only those with some connection, some personal reason to stay, remained, and there were few of those. I stayed, separate and apart from the few who did remain. I watched with an extreme heaviness in my heart. Probably should not have been there. Wouldn't the Sanhedrin just love to hear this? Good old Joseph of Arimathea, good old Sosthenes. All along, the secret disciple of the fallen Messiah. The fallen Messiah. I had given up everything I'd been raised on to follow this man. He had shown me truths that I had missed all along. He had been a good teacher and a good friend, and I believed he was the Messiah. But at this point, I began to wonder, would the Messiah have ended up here on the cross? He appeared to have given up. Did he still hold his claims? Did he still claim to be the Son of God? I had missed the boat of the Sanhedrin, which sentenced this innocent man to death, but I had heard he had not even defended himself. No one had. And now, as I looked at who lingered still, I noticed with sadness that even his closest disciples had deserted him. All but John and some women, one mother. I wanted to join them, but fear of exposure and a feeling I wouldn't be wanted held me back. There was, after all, still time to turn back, to pretend I knew nothing about this Jesus. But no, it was too late. I had been moved, irreversibly moved by this man. I could never return to the empty shell that was once my life. But to give up everything, if only I had some assurance that this was not some colossal mistake. It was then that I heard Jesus utter words which burned my resolve and words so much as the conviction, the peace behind the words that convinced me that this was the same man, the same Son of God, but led me to the Father. Painfully, but with relief in his voice, he said,
Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
It was as if I had been deaf and blind for all this time. I'd been with Jesus almost from the beginning. I understood the opportunity and tried to get my sons, James and John, to grab a hold of the opportunity. Zebedee had taught us to be like thunder, leaving nothing to chance, but making whatever noise was necessary to turn the events your way. They told me Jesus was different, but I didn't get it. He was just another leader, and one who seemed to like my boys. Personally, I didn't think he liked them enough. Didn't think he saw their talents, their potential. I pleaded with him to make them great in his kingdom, to seat them at the places of honor. I felt vindicated in my sense of this man's poor judgment when the man he honored at the Passover turned on him. And now here he was. But then I stayed. I watched, probably because John did. And as I watched this man Jesus die, and the way he died, it struck me with awe. I stood very close, next to John and Mary. And throughout, I heard this man express concern, forgiveness, and promise to others. When he finally got ready to die, he said something which caused a shiver down my back. And that's when I knew the truth. That's when I knew just how different he was. The sky darkened, and there was a tremendous earthquake. And suddenly, I understood all those things he said, the claims he made. More than the earthquake, more than the drama, it was the thing he said, though. That's what really got to me, and the way he said it. That's what brought me back to the tomb a few days later. With finality and satisfaction, almost as if he'd accomplished something rather than just die on a cross, he said,
It is finished.